With All Kill Chapter 2 coming to an end and 9.6 on the horizon, it is time for us to reflect. As I've been doing a lot on my own the last couple weeks in regards to my job. That is a joke. I do like my job. We just came out of a really busy season, so I am mentally and physically and emotionally burnt out. If you're new here, welcome. I like to track my killer sightings in my Dead by Daylight games because stats are fun and I find it enjoyable, and I've been doing it so long now that it feels weird not to pull out my spreadsheet after the end of every one of my Survivor games. Today we're going to be looking at my individual stats for 9.5. Then we're going to input those stats into my master spreadsheet, see any changes there, and then finally we're going to take a look at Dead by Daylight stats that they released for the last 6 months of September to February in relation to high MMR versus broad MMR killer picks, and kind of see where my stats line or don't line up with that. So with all of that being said, let's look at my stats for 9.5 specifically. 9.5 saw a Trickster rework along with a brand new map featuring the Trickster called Trickster's Delusion, which I will note for the entirety of 9.5.0, I was only playing in the dedicated map pool for Trickster's Delusion, so it is solely based off killers I saw on that map and not in regular queue. I will also take a note that for Blood Moon specifically, I played the event enough to help the entire community to get to the ×5 multiplier, then switched back into playing 9.5.2 because let me tell you, I understand that they want to do new things with the blood generators, but I like my build I have with Scavenger, which doesn't work on blood generators. And I just like using that build a lot. It makes the game fun for me because I love doing my little tambourine dance, and because it generates more skill checks for me, it keeps me more engaged and focused into the game instead of going like long swaths of time without having skill checks. And once the multiplier was in effect for everybody, there wasn't really much of an incentive for me, at least, to continue playing Blood Moon. With that being said, so for 9.5 collectively, I played 177 games. The last week or so, I haven't been playing any of Dead by Daylight because once Blood Moon stops being a thing and the blood point totals go back to being regular, it kind of hurts a little bit for not getting that many blood points per game. That's been a big factor of me not playing a lot of DBD within the recent weeks. Beyond work, of course, but I've slowly gotten back into my hyperfixation of blueprints. So there might be a long form video about that many months from now. Oh, and also I got back into playing Overwatch because Blood Moon and the April Fool's mode in Overwatch were happening simultaneously. And I've also picked up Pacopia, and I just newly picked up Tomodachi Life because I can also be influenced by the non-influencers. Anyway, so for 9.5 as a whole, I played 177 games, which I think is not as high as my typical games that I average, but it is higher, I think, from like the past 2 patches, I believe. You can see I played 68 games during Trickster's Delusion map queue, and then 9.5.1 was kind of like this in-between between the map pool and Blood Moon happening, and then I played my 25 games of Blood Moon until we got the max multiplier, and then I switched and just played in 9.5.2. To no one's surprise, the most seen killer we saw was the Trickster because everyone is trying out the rework, playing as Mina. As someone who really likes Trickster, just both as a killer and also just lore-wise, I'm glad Trickster got some attention and love, and seeing different people play Trickster, and that made my entire month of March playing against Trickster. It was so much fun because I don't really get to see a lot of Tricksters because Trickster isn't as common, so it was fun to actually get to play against the killer that I play as, that I main as, and that I also adore. So that was great. So of course, to no one's surprise, we saw the Trickster at 29 times out of the 177, with animatronic coming in second place at a total of 12 sightings, and then Ghoul and Huntress were tied for third at 10 sightings. There were a few killers I did not see, which included the twins, Cenobite, and surprisingly the Knight. Knight is not as consistent as maybe Wesker or even Nemesis, but Knight is usually, I see at least a few per patch. So that one is very peculiar, why I didn't see any Knight. If you pay more attention to patch notes, if they made a buff or a nerf to Knight, do let me know. I'm curious. Or if maybe you saw a crap ton of Knights in your games and then just you got all of them so I could get the Tricksters. That is a fair trade. I will take the Tricksters if you take Knight. I'm okay with that. Beyond that, there really wasn't anything too outlandish. I mean, animatronic, Ghoul, and Huntress are all pretty strong killers in terms of their we've talked about consistency before, their higher pick rate, just naturally. That isn't really a surprise. It's not like in one of the prior releases where Trapper was just really popular for some reason and there wasn't really many buffs, nerfs made to him. So it's like, oh, like, why are people playing a lot of Trapper? There really isn't anything here beyond Knight just having 0 sightings, generally speaking. Now, I did already go ahead and copy paste my 9.5 totals into my master spreadsheet because Trickster saw 21 sightings in just 9.5 alone. That made him an outlier number for 9.5.0 specifically. So I had to do some fancy schmancy Excel formatting changes, and I didn't want to have to do that while like my recording was paused. So I did that off camera for y'all and for my sanity. So going into all games mode, and you can see I was making some changes here. So I already had added in everything from 9.5. I updated the sum column for that to work effectively, and you can see I did give Trickster the wonderful color of orange for us to note that it's an outlier number. It is interesting to note that before I did add all of 9.5 in here, Trickster was at 21. Now, of course, everyone is going to have their numbers increase pending that people played those killers and I played against them. But it's really interesting to see that Trickster's now at 50 sightings instead of his original 21. So that puts him now on par with characters like Good Guy and Clown, which we've seen around 51 sightings of each of them. And I find that fascinating that a major rework, and maybe the map component also played into it as well, because like I wanted to play as Trickster on his map because it's his map. Though I don't fault anyone for playing their respective killer, their favorite killer, on that map as well, because they want to see what they can and can't do on the map, right? It's fascinating to note that a major rework and or a map dedicated to that killer can have an increase in terms of numbers, because I'm pretty confident in saying that if that didn't happen, let's say 9.5, like we had a new killer or like we had a map, but it was like a generic map or something like that, we would probably still be like in the early mid 20s range with Trickster in terms of numbers, which would have put him on par with Artist, Cenobite, and Plague for sightings. So it's interesting to just, again, observation, to take note that a major rework can really bring some new life into the killer. Now, will we see this continue past 9.5 and into 9.6 and into 10.0, which is upcoming in the summer? That remains to be seen. Of course, I would like to see that because I love Trickster. I like playing against Trickster, but I know not everyone's in that same boat, but it's a little tidbit just to store it away for the future. To no one's surprise again, Ghoul and Animatronic are neck and neck for who is going to overtake the other for the most popular killer that we have seen. Animatronic came out after Ghoul, but Animatronic has essentially caught up to Ghoul. That is fascinating to me. And Animatronic is just gonna continue outpacing the Ghoul, even though Ghoul has been around a little bit longer than Animatronic. I think I may have mentioned this in my last video. I had predicted Mastermind and Legion would catch back up, but it is also important to note, and I just remembered this, Legion has been kill switched for like it feels like forever. It feels like forever that Legion has been kill switched. I think Legion was kill switched during Blood Moon, like during like the very beginning of Blood Moon. And we don't know what's happening there. We just know that they're kill switched. And it's like, okay, we'll wait. We'll wait patiently. Or not so patiently if you are a Legion main. That is now noted for the record, that Legion was kill switched. So that makes sense, because if Legion was not kill switched, we probably would have seen Legion pop into the 100 club when it comes to sightings. Though Mastermind was only a couple off, but this next update will probably see him go into the 100 realm to join Ghoul and Animatronic. Those are the only two in the 100 realm as of right now. Huntress is also pretty close at 96 sightings in comparison to Wesker's 97 sightings. So probably, pending that Legion gets unkill switched, we're probably going to see Huntress, Legion, and Mastermind all go into the 100s during 9.6. Beyond that, there isn't anything else to note. Now, there is one other thing I did want to talk about, and that is behaviors reporting of different sightings within their data. I know the article looks a little funky because I am right here. I'm covering it. And I really just wanted to look at the killer pick rates. And okay, so how about I just like camera on the left? Okay, this is what we're doing now. Okay. So these are the killer pick rates that Behavior released, the data having been pulled from September 1st of 2025 to February 28th, 2026. Now, I don't have specific dates for my tracking. I just go by patch. I could not replicate this entirely, but I think it would be fun for us to kind of go through to see, hey, like, do my stats kind of correlate with Behavior's overall statistics? And it is important to remember, very important to remember, that their data, so Behavior's data, is going to be looking across the world, across time zones, across when people are playing the game. Mine only reflect my play habits. So in high MMR, we had Ghoul, Blight, Mastermind, Shape, and Animatronic in that order. In broad MMR, we had Huntress, tied with the Shape. Third place being Animatronic, then Legion, and then the Ghoul. Now, I did include both high MMR and broad MMR because I frankly don't know what I classify as in terms of MMR in the game. Usually I get to Eerie 1 on Survivors if I'm playing enough. I have no idea what I would be classified as, so I included both. So back on my spreadsheet, I made a new tab for this specifically because I wanted to see just these numbers on their own. So here we are. I included all of 9.2 because which I know goes into March a little bit, but considering that was my chapter I played the least amount of games in, I figured it would be relatively okay. So out of the 6-month span, roughly, give or take, I played 428 games. I did make a cute little pie chart, which I'm gonna have to zoom out here so it's easier for y'all to see. I did make a cute little pie chart because you can do that in Excel, fun fact, in case you didn't know. I also do have a little chart down here, which you can kind of see most of it. I'll scroll over a little bit here. So I did include the high MMR and broad MMR from Behavior stats along with mine. Out of that 6-month span, my highest killer that I saw was Animatronic at 5.9%, which mostly kind of matches with the broad MMR of 5.6%, but obviously Huntress and Shape took the lead in that category, which I did see Shape at 5.3% most often. Then the First and Trapper were tied for 4.2%, and then Mastermind, Legion, and Ghostface were tied for 3.9%. Night, Blight, and Hunters then being tied for 3.7%. It's interesting how, and I'm just gonna go off broad MMR because I think that's like roughly where most of it is matching. Huntress, for me, was only seen 3.7% of the time that I have played out of my games, whereas in broad MMR, she was seen the highest, again, tied with Shape for 5.7% of games. Whereas with me, Shape was seen at 5.3%, which is mostly on par with that. Same with Animatronic. And also notice that Ghoul is in both categories in the top 5. Ghoul, for me, I've seen 3.1% out of my games. It's interesting to see how there's kind of like a little bit of a discrepancy. And again, like I mentioned, we have to look at statistics very broadly, not necessarily with a grain of salt, but like a little bit of a grain of salt, right? Because my stats are going to be different because of the time I play, the time zone I'm in, the server I'm on, all these other factors. My MMR is also a thing as well. For people, generally speaking, there's no specific person that comes to mind when I make this statement. When people complain like, oh my God, I'm seeing so much of this specific killer, usually Ghoul is the one that I see the most complaints about. You also have to understand, like, there's multiple factors that go into why you're seeing a specific killer that many times. In comparing my stats to behaviors, mine's kind of an outlier. Like, I don't see as Ghoul as much as maybe other players for whatever reason. Or it could just be, again, when I chose to play. When I didn't play DBD, maybe that's when a lot of Ghouls were playing. And this is why I love stats. I will say this every video. This is why I love stats. It's fun to kind of ponder. That's been my word of the week. I've been saying pondering a lot. To think on why certain things are happening in a game. Why I'm being paired with certain survivors or against a certain killer. It's just an interesting thought experiment, I feel. And again, I make these videos mostly for fun. I think it's a fun thing to kind of just go through my stats and see what I'm witnessing in my games and then just to have a conversation about it. So if you are interested in tracking your own stats, I do have a Excel template in my description down below, and you're always welcome to join us over on Twitch for the occasional DBD stream. I will probably be streaming a lot of Anniversary when Anniversary comes around, not just because of the new killer and survivor, but because blood points, Anniversary, cakes, pies, whatever the fuck they're gonna throw at us this way. So feel free to let me know what your stats told you about your games. If you were calculating or even from just anecdotal memory, that's fine as well. And we shall see what happens in 9.6. Appreciate you spending your time with me, and I'll see you all real soon. My name's Aaron Gray, career Twitch streamer, signing off.